Okay, today let's take a quick look at the Medicom MAFEX Star Wars Mandalorian Recovered Armor Boba Fett. I think it was a couple of months ago with the Medicom MAFEX Mandalorian Season 2 Mandalorian that I was like, well, I kind of forgot I pre-ordered this thing. It's the same thing here. Medicom likes to take their sweet-ass time with both soliciting things from popular movies or shows and then actually releasing those items. So yeah, when I got the payment request from Ami, it was kind of, I have the Black Series, I have the figure arts, I have the model kit. Oh, you know where I'm going here, right, though? It's Star Wars, it's Boba Fett, I had to do it. So I slapped my money down. Here we are. Looking at the package, it's what we're used to with MAFEX at this point. I've always said that it has kind of a dollar store feel, and in some aspects that is still true, but in others they've improved a little bit. You can see the figure in the big window when the light's not reflecting and blocking everything. There's a pretty promotional picture with Star Wars, Mando. Another promotional image on the side with all those logos. On the back, more pretty, showing what you get, what it can do, some warnings, or well, did I jump the gun there? I'm just so used to, here's the package, here's the plastic, here's the cardboard hook. On the side, okay, that's a pretty badass shot. On the top, on the bottom, there is your warnings. Choking hazard, small parts, don't put the expensive import toys down your mouth hole. More warnings, notice, barcode, phone numbers. Let's see what's going on here. Getting it out of the package and messing around with it for a little bit, it's a mixed bag. It is hard to deny that it doesn't look, wait, am I going with too many negatives there? It looks great, but there's some engineering decisions that I'm just not liking. First, look at these proportions. It's got that thickness that he had in Mandalorian Season 2. I kind of had to shift the torso forward a bit and then lean back to get exactly what I wanted, but look at that. It's got that thickness, almost squareness going down the sides. Lots of great little sculpting details that are so iconic Boba Fett. You have these silver little stud things on this gauntlet, and then over here you have the rocket and some more little dabs of silver paint. And that's one of my favorite things because they stuck it here and even back here on the holster that's covered up most of the time. Back of the gauntlet's got some silver buttons. What do we got over here? Oh, no, just that. The nozzles are painted down there. At this point, he had just repainted the armor, but it's still flaking a bit because it's Beskar, it's Boba Fett. It doesn't look right if there's not little imperfections. There should be some red in those slots though, right? The Fett crest and the Mando logo over here and more little silver dots up where the armor meets. A little black in the center of the back, and then the baggy pants going down again to the yellow knee pads, down to the boots, and then the rain gear. The shoes themselves, or the boots underneath the spats, are a different color. Nice sculpt to the belt, coming around to the pouches and the paint on the buckle, and then, just a little gold dot. I can appreciate stuff like that. Do have a ding in the right shoulder pad, along with the right knee pad. Cloth scarf, which we haven't seen with any previous, except for the model kit. But that's weird layers that you stack up under there. Looks like pancakes around his neck. The cool thing about this being cloth is that it gets out of the way. So I like this decision, and it's even wired. How crazy is that? It's just a loop around the neck, but you can get a little bit of posing out of it. But then there's the helmet. Again, just signature Fett. The dent right there with some scuffs in the green paint, the reds, the blacks, the silver over here with this little extra design, the orange kill stripes, and then of course the one black. But like I mentioned, there's also some weird decisions. This shoulder pad coming up is a butterfly type joint pinned in the front, but you can see that it comes way far out, as it should. That's how it looked in the show. And then the shoulder pads are attached with hinges up under there. The arm is pegged into that socket with a ball joint, which gets out, but because of the shape of this, you can't swing the arm further up than this. All this just gets in the way. I don't know why they didn't put this shoulder pad on the actual arm. Then it would have rotated inside of that at least a little higher, or you could have brought it out as is. You can't bring it out. Even if you come over, that's as high as it'll go. We saw this in the show because of the hoses and everything. This one doesn't quite lay down enough. It adds a bit of asymmetry to the design. But if you shift the arm up, it punches that out, and it doesn't go down until you drop the arm just a little. I know that's not a huge, well, okay, I said it goes, that's not a huge deal because, again, the arm's down slightly does not affect the overall look, but I do like push, and I hate to mention the hoses because that's just part of the design and what we see with every figure of Boba Fett. It's attached up at the shoulder and then down at the gauntlet, so when you go to bend the elbow, it always gets in the way. It stretches this. Left arm, no hoses. Well, okay. It's not much further, but it doesn't even reach 90 because of those. And then, of course, baggy pants are always going to be a hindrance to articulation in the lower regions. It may look like a double joint, but there's only one pin, and they did that because of the bagginess. Now, you go to bend the knee, it's going to run into each other back here. Plastic on plastic violence. But this is a separate assembly because of this. This has to go up under here, so there's a big cave. Watch how much plastic gets hidden as you straighten out the leg. That does cause some overhang, but again, super baggy pants. Then we kind of saw this with the MAFEX Captain America. It's not quite as bad here, but the pants coming down does get in the way of the ankles a bit. So you can go here, but there's not a lot of tilt. And I don't know if that's because of how the pin's set up or if that actually gets in the way now that I'm looking at it. That or it's just super tight. That one's a little better. What it comes down to, I think, is that they overshot streamlining this look. The shoulders are, I was going to say over-engineered, but they're not. They're not engineered enough? That's odd to say out loud. Oh, I forgot to mention the cloth sash hanging down from under the belt. They did it right where it's just on one side. No wire to these. They just kind of fly around, but they look good. There's some pleats in it and some raggedness. Can't complain. But jumping back into gripe mode, I do have some nitpicks with the colors. I talked about the paints and the chipping and everything and how it's nice, but now that I've looked at it for a little while, I feel like the green is a little too saturated, a little too dark. I think it was a little more pale, a little more olive in the episodes. I mean, all the colors may be brighter than what we saw, but the green stands out at me the most. That and the pants and the sash being brown instead of black. We've seen this before, but Medicom's had a couple of years to get that right. It doesn't make me hate it. Like I said, I've had this before. In fact, the one I've had on the shelf has brown pants, but it's kind of frustrating to be a higher priced import item that's had plenty of time. Going over articulation, there seems to be, is the scarf stuffed into the helmet? What's going on here? No, it's just kind of shoved up under there. Dumbbell joint at the top of the neck, and then dumbbell joint at the bottom of the neck. I started too low. The rangefinder is on a hinge, comes down in front of his face. Dumbbell up top, dumbbell down bottom, looks up, looks down. Ooh, so much tilt. Sarlacc. Where? Again, this is complicated. There is a butterfly joint that comes forward and kind of shifts up and down, and then the arm's plugged into that with a ball joint. So forward gets to about right there. Can swing back and then out about right there. There's a swivel at that sleeve line right there, but then the ball up top takes care of a lot of it. Also talked about the double elbow. It comes up to there because of the gauntlet. It's worse on this side because of the hoses. Swivel hinge swivel at the wrist, so it turns up top. It swings in and out, but you can also turn it around to go forward and back, wherever you want to go. Seems to be a dumbbell joint at the waist, hidden behind the belt. In fact, yes, dumbbell joint. There's another joint above that that doesn't get a lot of movement at all. Again, stuff gets in the way. It crunches a little, arcs back slightly, tilt, and rotation. Drop down to the hip, swings up to here, back and out. Okay, the holster gets in the way on that side. What are we looking at over here? Not bad. That rotates a little on that assembly. Single knee comes up to slightly past 90. Swivel at the top. Oh, okay, it's the wrist joint. And I just realized that if you want side to side, you can get that around like that. And then you have super tilt. Hinges like this, and then a toe joint goes to there. For accessories in the package, Boba Fett comes with 2 fists. There's 2 trigger fingers, 2 pointers, 2 splayed out with fingers down. Is that trigger finger? What's going on there? 2 splayed out and 2 relaxed, and or holding the weight of the rifle. Speaking of that, it looks fantastic with the silvers and the blacks and the browns. And okay, I just skipped right over the sculpt, right? It's just sharp as all hell. What I just said about the rifle also goes for the pistol. The colors, the shapes, the sculpt. Oh, it's just nice. This type of rifle, oh no, it went right in there. Usually it's a pain in the ass because of how closed this is, but the hand is a little soft. Shouldn't be a problem. Oh yeah, there we go. Kind of hard to get him into this pose because the arm doesn't come across. He can't shoulder the butt of the rifle. But that looks pretty good. Not too bad there either. Pistol shouldn't be a problem at all. You just push and twist and, ooh, gunslinger pose. Or full-on blasting away. They didn't go for the swappable holster option. You just put the gun in and then bring this back down and you're good to go. Have one of these that I've always had trouble with in the past, but it seems like there's just a hole right there. And if I can get that plugged in, then, okay. No swapping, no nothing. It just goes in there and stays. That is a fairly sturdy piece of wire. Then you have this sculpt right there. Yeah, okay, I really like that. There's this swappable gauntlet piece with some translucent orange flame on it. And I guess you just pull the top of this off. Instructions would have been pretty sweet here. Or did I miss those? Okay, that unplugs. Seems like this should just come off, but it's not. Okay, I had to really pry that off, which isn't bad because was it Mando that I was having a problem with that just falling off? And I hated that. Let's see how well, okay, it goes on there nice and secure. Plug this in, what the hell? It almost seems like that peg hole is too small for this peg. It looks out of shape a little bit, doesn't it? But you can't argue with these results. That just, and it's secure. I love that. This has a handle too, so I should be, yep. And look at the peg holes. This one is nice and rectangle. This one, not so much. I'll have to do some fixing. One of my favorite things about modern Boba Fett is we finally saw these shoot out of the knee pads, and it looks like that's fully swappable too, instead of having just a little effect to plug in with a tiny little peg. Big, hefty peg shape. That is perfect. That works beautifully. Have the jetpack that is Boba Fett's. I mean, you stack up a bunch of jetpacks side by side, Boba Fett's. His is right there. It's got the patch sculpted in with a little paint here and there, some scuffs, the reds, the yellows, the silvers. Yeah, this is nice. You swap out the whole back plate in order to put it on there, which is weird because it looks like it's pegged right there in the middle, but maybe they did that to keep this seamless, to keep that design work right there. So I was gonna say it's not rocket science, but it is rocket science. That's fairly sturdy too. It stays, okay. It took a minute, and going down, I knocked the antenna out. And I can already hear people saying, oh, that's MAFEX falling apart in your hands, but you saw me throwing it around and then dropping it from half a foot. It stays on there under normal circumstances. It still feels very sturdy. I know I'm not proving that point in some cases, but it is. Another highlight was seeing Boba Fett actually use the rocket on the top of the jetpack. So I guess, yep, that comes out. There's a D-shaped hole. So you put that here, twist it until it falls in there. And in case you want them in flight poses, there's blast effects that plug into the jetpack. Those are not articulated, so it's solid, it stays straight. And then finally, there is probably the best unmasked Boba Fett head we've gotten so far. Unfortunately, those are all in bags and boxes and tucked away and hidden, and I haven't been able to track them down, but just looking at this, Medicom knocked it out of the park. There's some slight discoloration from the scarring and the facial features. As I've shown several times, this pops apart at the bottom of the neck. But this here? I love that this hides the socket for the neck joint. Hell, this may be how I display this one. Boba Fett stands at about 6 1/8 to the top of the helmet. And then here it is with other versions of this same armor in this same look. Here's the Bandai SH Figuarts, the Bandai Model Kit, and then the Hasbro Black Series. A little large next to the MAFEX Mando. I think Boba Fett is supposed to be slightly shorter, but he's got that larger helmet thing down, like we see in the show, but not as large as the MAFEX Return of the Jedi Boba Fett helmet. He does look large next to the Hasbro Black Series Costco Reeves and Bo-Katan though. Same goes for the Black Series Fennec Shand and Cara Dune. And I know he wasn't hanging with Chrysanthemum in this exact look, but here he is with that, and then Migs Mayfeld. And again,
he's large.
So at the end of the day, a great looking Boba Fett, but it may not be for everyone. Me, I'm gonna fudge it into the display because of the look, even though I feel like it should be smaller. I don't know why Medicom made Mando an exact 1/12 scale or as damn close as they can get, and then they continue making Boba Fett slightly large. The deal breaker is going to be the hindrance to the articulation, especially in the shoulders, the arms. I feel like if they had taken that shoulder joint and made it rotatable with the arms, instead of pinned up front to have just butterfly and some up and down, then it would have alleviated a lot of that. But then again, I'm not a toy designer. I just play with them. The accessories are pretty sweet, and in the past, especially with Mandos, that's what's gotten my goat more than once. They weren't fun to mess with or play with or stick on there. With this, everything goes on tight and doesn't fall off, and it's not overcomplicated, it's not over-engineered. You just put it on there, boom, done. So the overall look is the best out of what I've got. The simplicity of the accessories are way more fun. But man, yeah, it's big and not a lot of movement. So you're going to have to pick your battles. You're going to have to make that decision for yourself. Oh, and don't forget about the unmasked head. That's pretty sweet too. I wonder if this will transfer over to